Lions just recovered a fumble.
Bits of wisdom.
It's Harry Houdini, I'm pretty sure.
That's when it kind of becomes Home Improvement After Dark.
I guess that leaves us at the question of the week.
Very good. I don't know if you noticed, Jordan, but a really cool aerial shot of the table. Reasonably funny.
User review.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Home Impodcast time.
That's right. Binford Tools is proud to present a Home Improvement podcast. My name is Adam, and you all know my co-host, Jordan. He made the Statue of Liberty disappear, Lions.
Oh,
here we are.
One of my very best tricks that I've ever done.
Yeah, that's one of your greatest hits, as it were.
There's a video that just compiles all my great magic tricks.
Yeah, it's like a Kramer supercut from Seinfeld, just all your best bits. Jordan, we haven't talked to each other probably since the last time we recorded, and that's been nigh upon 2 weeks or something.
You were pounding on me for weeks for a vacation, so when you said you wanted time off, I figured you didn't want to talk to me at all. So we've been separated. We both have been to Michigan, but at separate times. We've been kind of doing on-the-ground research in the backyard of Home Improvement.
Yeah, I went up there, did some surveying, some field studies, and I think the listeners are gonna see the improvements that we've made just based on the findings. Yeah, Jordan, when I said I wanted a break and you thought I didn't want to talk to you, I got to say you were right. I'm back. We're both back. You're in Michigan. I'm back home in the studio. And we're here to talk home improvement. What's new with you?
What's new with me? Really not a ton. You know, we made the 18-and-a-half-hour drive. We drove straight through. My wife was a trooper and did most of the driving actually through the night. So, well, I napped.
You're not a man.
Nope, I can't drive at the night. Saw my nephew this morning, so that was nice. I haven't seen him in like 6 months. And I've been, visiting some of the old happy haunts around Davison, Michigan.
Yeah.
So it's a real nostalgic time for me right now.
I had the pleasure of doing that about 8 days ago. I was back there in Davison, just cruising through, and I don't make it back very often. And I enjoyed.
You did ask me
the tour as well.
If there's anything you should do.
Yeah, well, I asked if you wanted me to pass a message along to anybody. Like I was going to see some of our old cronies that you might not have the opportunity to see. No, it was good to pass through there. And of course, last episode, if you'll recall, I had mentioned I was going to make a speech as a best man at a wedding. I've made the speech, and Jordan, you read a draft.
I did.
I did, of course, mention the Home Improvement podcast, and it got good laughs.
Good.
Some of the jokes landed better than expected. Some of them worse. I think that's the nature of such a thing. But when I mentioned Home and Podcast, people laughed. And
our downloads didn't go up, though.
No, downloads are about the same. But I was wondering, when people laughed, I was thinking, okay, are they laughing because they think it's funny that someone would have a home improvement podcast? Or are they laughing because they recognize the brand and they're like, oh, pretty funny he'd bring that up? I don't know which it was.
My guess is not the latter, but
yeah, I don't know.
We talk about how sometimes our friends and family refuse to listen to our podcast, so I don't know.
Yeah, and I had my family was there. When my family was there, I referenced it, and they were like, "What? He has a home improvement podcast? What's this all about? We got to look into this thing."
Yeah, we got your sister on, but your parents, they're not interested.
Yeah, no, they're too big time. But speech went well. Waiting for listenership to go up. I almost demanded mid-speech. I was like, if everybody could just get on their phones right now.
Go to your podcast app, Stitcher. Go ahead and hit subscribe.
SoundCloud, anywhere podcasts are found. Go ahead and rate and review us if you like the show. If not,
yesterday I went to lunch with Sam, and I made him get his iPhone out just to make sure he was subscribed, because he's a shifty character, and he was kind of unsure whether he was subscribed or not.
Yeah, I do know. Lip service, Sam Lip Service Weber. No, I did end the speech by saying, yeah, if you guys want to listen to Jungle to Jungle episode, just go ahead and put a couple of bones in this hat. I passed around a hat, and
it was like offering at church, basically.
It was exactly like that. But no, everything's good. Jordan, it's good to talk to you again. We didn't have much banter before the show because I thought we could just save it for our on-air discussions. So
I think it'll work out well. So I guess with that, we can just jump right into episode 52. This joke's for you.
Now, Jordan, Obviously, I saw on IMDb the reference is the This Bud's For You commercial. You just sent me the commercial before we started recording, and I'm glad you did because, I remembered the commercial, but I didn't remember, exactly what it was all about. And I gotta say, heck of a commercial.
Heck of a commercial. I didn't remember it being so catchy, but man, it's stuck in my head right now.
Or so long.
Yeah, it is a full minute.
Yep.
It is the quintessential 90s music in the background and all of that kind of filmography, like it's like a blue, everything's blue, and there's like those scenes where the cars are moving faster than they actually are, and
it looks like Armageddon, the movie. Like, you can tell that Armageddon and this movie came out at the same time, because I watched Armageddon within the last 6 months, and they both have like that kind of, it's not like sepia, but like the tone, like the color tones are different. And this commercial, you got people just living their lives. People are driving cars. They're at payphones, which, of course, what are payphones, and just out doing things. So This Bud's For You and You and You and You.
It's everyone's
great commercial.
beer.
It's everyone that is of age to drink and doesn't want to spend a lot for their beer, but also doesn't want to spend, go to the very bottom of the cellar for their beer prices. So it's a good commercial.
Good commercial.
And that's what we're referencing this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one was written by Howard J. Morris. The last one he did was Much Ado About Nana, and he also did Where There's a Will, There's a Way. So they bring him in for more of the serious pieces, I would say.
And I think that is true to this episode as well.
They did it here. So aired September 15th, 1993. You did tell me that you came up with alternative titles ahead of time, so I'm expecting a little bit more out of you this week.
I did come up with the titles beforehand, but they're not any better than if I would have come up with them right before. I think that so the title is This Joke's For You. There was a lot of directions to go in, but it didn't seem to make it any easier. I felt like there was low-hanging fruit that I just couldn't quite grab.
Just beyond your reach.
Regardless of that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh my gosh.
One of 4.5.
I just go with
total.
3 and stop, but you just keep going.
Well, it's because none of mine are ever that good, so I try to
flood the market.
Compensate.
Yeah.
All right, so you have 3, I have 5. I'll do 2, and then you do 1.
Okay.
All right. So I'll start with this one. Don't look a sawhorse in the mouth.
Oh yeah. A popular turn of phrase, so I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks.
I you know what? It's funny. I knew you would like that sawhorse.
I have some questions about the sawhorse.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
Go with your second.
Next one is the tragic waif that boys treat their fathers. Yes.
Was that like a wafer joke?
No. David Copperfield. They refer to him as the tortured waif and the tragic waif. So I was just changing out way for waif. Anytime you gotta explain a joke or something, it's a good one.
The words are so close in that one too that I don't think I caught the distinction. So
if you saw it written out, you would have gotten it.
I would have been laughing on the floor right now.
Yeah, you
so
would. All right.
So I'll start with my weakest one, which is just a little play of alliteration. So it's intercom irritation.
That's good. I tried to do something with intercom, couldn't come up with a thing. All right, another one of mine is the jockeying jokester.
Ooh. Jockeying jokester. All right, here we go. Pubescence upsetance.
See, yours are good. That's a good one. All right, I have 2 left. I'll end with my worst one. Also my least clever. Okay, this one. Your words hurt like the Dickens.
Oh, I did. I should go next because this is fitting as well. Mm-hmm. Mine is Randy the Dickens.
All right, good, because David Copperfield was written by Charles Dickens. Mm-hmm. Is that your last one?
That is my last one.
You did well. All right, my last one. Bedroom boys. They spent a lot of time in the bedroom in this episode with a Z.
I was going to say, for sure, the boys has a Z in it, right?
Yeah, they spent a lot of time in the bedroom. Yours are good.
Definitely your weakest. You started definitely your weakest for last. You started strong and really ended with a whimper, but that's all right.
Yeah, out like a lion and like a lamb. Or vice versa. Doesn't much matter. What's next for us, Jordan?
Plot synopsis. Shaking off the rust here. So we've got a plot synopsis by Bernie. So that means it's going to be shorter and sweeter. So Tim installs an intercom at home, but is hurt when Randy calls him a goofball, and the show should be called Fool Time. Tim tries to change on the show. Meanwhile, Brad reads David Copperfield to impress a girl, thinking it is about the magician. So lots of hijinks coming around here. And we're going to open on Tool Time in what I would say is the saddest scene in the whole series, perhaps, because Tim crushes the logo. He steps on it and rubs his feet down, and it's...
Man, I didn't see the logo again.
You gotta be kidding me.
I didn't see it. I gotta get
at this point. I think you're just closing your eyes for the first 30 seconds because you don't want to see it.
I didn't see the logo.
There was nothing more obvious than they open with the logo, a giant logo, and it's squirming on the ground, and Tim crushes it.
Jordan, can I correct you? You said we open up on Tool Time, but we actually open up on the Tool Time Corral.
Oh, you're right. My mistake. Jeez.
Yeah, I didn't see the logo, but we open on Tool Time. And they're both wearing cowboy hats. Al is wearing his 10-gallon hat. And
good to see that's back around.
It's the same prop from the gambling episode, do you think?
Yeah, unless, Disney stole it and put it in a museum somewhere.
Ooh, if you want to know what he's talking about, listen to our special guest Richard Karn episode. Yes, insider information. So they're talking about sawhorses. I don't know what a sawhorse is.
Yes, you
do. I didn't look one up. I'm hoping you can explain it to me.
Sawhorses are basically something you would just elevate something with. So you could lay a door on it to sand it or paint it or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it called that?
It looks like a horse. I mean, we'll see it in a minute here. You put a head on it and a tail and an engine, and it's a horse.
I would argue you put a horse head and a horse tail on any tangible object, and it looks more like a horse than it did before.
It looks like it has a straight piece of wood for the body and then two legs that come out at the front and the back. That's why.
All right. So sawhorses. Now I know. That's good. So Tim, there's a sawhorse conversation which went over my head. Tim leaves the set to go get a different sawhorse, and Al begins kind of a soliloquy about
his first sawhorse.
His first sawhorse, Lily. Tim emerges with a sawhorse that has an engine, and I think we know where things are headed.
Yeah, this is
so he rides it out.
telegraphed.
It goes 160, so that's pretty fast.
Impressive.
And,
faster than the lawnmower.
Yeah, it was faster than the lawnmower. Boy, I'd like to see an episode where the lawnmower and the sawhorse race. Whew. I'm hoping season 3 finale, that's where we're headed.
Oh, baby.
Basically, there is an exchange, and the sawhorse. Al tells Tim to, take it out of idle or something, and the sawhorse just goes really fast towards the camera. Tim hits his head, and it's sort of playing on an old Wild West kind of saloon thing. So he sees I don't remember exactly what he sees. It's essentially he sees stars around his head, and
it's
some
tools
kind of
though. It's a screwdriver and a hammer and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then some whimsical kind of music plays. It's silly.
It's a pretty brutal scene to open with, I feel like.
It wasn't very funny, no.
Yeah. The whole Western theme didn't really land with me. I guess, what else can you do with horses? I guess you got to go for the Western theme. You don't have a choice.
You have to, yeah. Maybe they squandered an opportunity, but I have a feeling this isn't the last time we're going to see Home Improvement try a Wild West type scene. So, next scene, we are at home. And Tim is installing an intercom in the kitchen, and boy, it seems like a foolish endeavor. Their house is just not that big.
Yeah, what's the whole point of an intercom? I mean, this is the ultimate symbol of laziness in the home. When your remote control breaks and you won't get up and turn the channel on the TV, so you just leave it on that one channel, or you're texting people in the same house as you or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good reference. Do people, or did people have intercoms? I mean, is that a 90s sign of wealth and prosperity? Or I've never known anyone that had an intercom. I don't think.
I came from humble beginnings, so we did not have an intercom. Just wasn't something we were looking into. But I don't remember going to any friend's house that had an intercom either. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that might have just been a sign of where we grew up. But my apartment, as it is, I'm looking at an intercom right now, and it connects inside to the outside, and it only works sometimes, but I could talk to people from outside the door if I wanted to.
Yeah, I've had one in an apartment before. You let people in, and they buzz you to say that you're there or whatever.
Okay, well, why didn't you say that when you had the opportunity insteed of
you were saying
one-upsmanship?
You were saying in a house.
Well, Jordan, apartments are houses for those that cannot afford something larger.
I think that's a different experience than someone who's trying to connect with their, son or their wife in a bedroom.
I feel like an intercom is something that I would have really pushed my family to get when I was younger. Like, It just sounds like a cool thing to have.
You probably would have been, like, making jokes and fart noises through the intercom.
Or, like, I don't know, like pretending that you're like a ghost or something and like whimpering. That's probably what I would have done. But,
you're more of a ghost guy. That's true.
I love ghost humor. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
All right, so intercom is being installed. Jill kind of takes the next couple of minutes to sort of just burn Tim. She says it's not needed. Mark is there. He's kind of cheering his dad on. Before long, they both leave. Then we get Randy and his new pal, Jeremy.
Yeah. Not Jeremy. The one who writes our synopsises, I suppose.
No. And I have a bio for Jeremy. Jeremy is played by Jimmy Lee Newman. And Jimmy Lee, his last appearance was in an episode of Sister Sister in 1997. Jordan, obviously, that's one of your favorite shows.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you remember his turn as Daryl in Two's Company?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a show-stopping number, so...
Yeah, I mean, his Daryl performance is iconic. He was also in a series that was called My Brother and Me, which ran for 13 episodes and was canceled.
A lot of
episode of Murphy Brown,
TV shows.
And he was in the film Boys in the Hood.
Oh!
Not to be confused with Bedroom Boys.
They're very similar. Tim is making a lot of, like, very dad jokes here. Like, he makes a really bad English muffin joke and other things like that.
Yeah, it's bad and it goes on too long.
Yes. So he's doing that. He's embarrassing his son, and Jeremy kind of likes it, though.
Jeremy digs it.
He digs it. So they're making fun of him as they go upstairs, and they continue upstairs, and Randy continues to berate his father, but this time it's behind his dad's back. And it turns out the intercom is working because Tim gets to hear the brunt of this attack. And I'm using words like attack and disparage because otherwise, if you were to actually listen to what's happening, it would sound completely normal in what they usually do in every other episode. So I'm trying to make it sound worse than it is.
Yeah, well, let's give the folks a listen. Let's go ahead and play that short clip of Randy's just scathing burns on his father. I mean, guys, might better call the ambulance right now because you're going to have to go to the hospital after these third-degree Bs.
Ouch.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, Randy. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing?
Can't complain.
All right.
What's that, the emergency broadcast system?
Yeah. We're at war with the English. Apparently they want their muffins back. All right, line them up. Give us our muffins. Sign them up. Put butter on them. I want all right, boys.
Dad, could we? Hey, come on, we better get upstairs. This thing could blow at any minute. Wait a minute. How can you blow up an intercom? You don't know my dad. He blew up a dishwasher, a blender, and 7 toasters.
2 blenders, 5 toasters.
He's had so many accidents, the hospital gave him a preferred customer card.
2 more head injuries, we get a free trip to Hawaii.
Boy, your dad's funny. I wish my dad was like that. No, you don't. My dad's a total goofball. Ever see Tool Time? I thought all those groups were just an act. Are you kidding? They're thinking of changing the name of the show to Full Time.
So yeah, I mean, you heard it here first, or second if you've seen the episode before, but full-time, goofball, it doesn't get much worse than that. Also, I think we've heard full-time before.
Jordan, just give me a second. I have to go get some aloe for the burn that has incurred. Yeah, so it's really funny because, well, yeah, let me first address the full-time joke was made by Ryder Strong, the Halloween episode of last year. So, like, that is kind of lazy. And
so, wait, Randy is copying Ryder Strong. Danny.
Yeah, Danny the bad boy. Smoking J's in the side yard, Danny. But it's funny because, like, so first Randy just says, yeah, my dad's a total goofball. And Tim looks so sad. And then the sentimental music plays, and it's like, did he hear something different than we did? It's just so absurd. Like, Randy says nothing that he wouldn't say in front of his dad, and also none of it is especially, like, it's just whatever. I mean, it's not nice, but also like the show acts as if he's like spat in his face or something.
Yeah, and it's Mark just spat in his face just moments ago, so I think he's got the wrong boy. But I guess this is, and maybe they just portrayed it wrong, but I think it's more of instead of what he said, it's I think the fact that it was behind his back, because all of the joking usually happens right to his face, and they kind of play back and forth, but. The fact that they're trying to play it off like he said something just out of this world mean to his dad is a little. It
doesn't land. It's just like silly. I mean, it's just like it'd be like him saying, it'd be the equivalent to him saying my dad's a dork, and then Tim just like sitting in a chair and weeping for hours on end. It just doesn't land. But
it doesn't. But we'll move on to later at home. Jill is back. Brad comes in. He was at the library, and Brad would never go to the library unless it was for girls or video games. So this time it's for girls, and that girl is Jennifer Zdarsky. So get ready for that roller coaster. He got David Copperfield. Apparently, JS likes this boy Lance, and they're both smart, and they talk about these kind of books.
Literary Lance, the 7th grader reading David Copperfield. Yeah. He sounds cool.
How likely is it that these 7th or 8th graders are reading Charles Dickens books? Probably unlikely, but I was thinking Brad has come a long way from when they were dating before, and he wouldn't apologize to Jennifer for not picking her for kickball and all that kind of stuff. So he's kind of matured a bit, and he's trying a little bit harder. So
the things we do for love, Jordan.
Absolutely. So Brad thinks it's the magician David Copperfield, and we'll get that joke a few times in this episode. I also did notice that Brad has a really cool crew neck Binford sweatshirt
it's
on.
Great.
Oh my gosh! Now that's what I want. That's the best thing I've seen.
I'd kill for that. I would kill for that. Literally.
Yep. Okay.
I would kill.
Well, don't do that. That's going to really put our podcast in jeopardy going forward. So the intercom is making noises. At this point, it's malfunctioning as well. And Tim's picking up some air traffic controllers and some planes overhead. And he gets a little bit madder than he usually does, and he punches it. So Jill notices that something more is going on than just his usual screw-up. And Jill's not really taking him seriously. When Tim tries to explain what's going on, he's like, just talk to him, this is a normal thing, go talk to your kid. And Tim says he doesn't want to, but he tries to call him down with the intercom, and instead of Randy, he gets a communications tower, and that's how the scene ends.
Yeah, it's just fine. I don't know, I guess my problem with this scene is sort of my problem with the whole episode, in that it's just like Tim is... It's like Randy, who is a child, versus Tim, who all of a sudden is a child and is ill-equipped for any kind of criticism, and doesn't really know how to interact with his son because he called him a goofball once. So it's basically just like two little boys duking it out. Yeah. Tim did have a funny Uncle Fester.
That's true.
In this one,
I did like that.
I don't remember what it was, but basically something about Fester, Uncle Fester. So high highs in this one.
Yeah, I will say that it doesn't bode well that I'm about 1,000 times more interested in Brad and Jennifer in this episode and what they've got going on than the other plot that's going on here. So. We move on to the next scene. In the boys' room, Brad, he just got done with the intro to David Copperfield, so he's moving along. And Randy tries to dig into why he's doing this, and Brad does say that, in junior high, you've got to impress the girls with some more effort, and, snorting stuff through straws doesn't work anymore. So
no, it still works, but...
It still works? Oh, okay.
That's what he said. He said it still works, but you got to bring in some other things.
Yeah, you got to shake it up a bit. So Tim comes in, dismisses Brad. Tim also thinks the David Copperfield book is about the magician, so it reminds me of the episode, was it 2 episodes ago, where Isaiah, he's not kind of in on the joke, he just kind of doesn't quite get everything, so same kind of thing going on here. Randy's on the computer, but he's busting his father's chops like normal, and Tim tries to get serious for a moment. He says that, they kind of, this is how they joke with each other, but sometimes Randy can go too far, and he kind of explains the exact conversation that Jeremy and Randy had, but how could he possibly know unless he was eavesdropping? So Randy gets mad. He, just like every, adult that is worried about net neutrality and all these internet spying things, he's worried about his privacy. So Randy goes all in and starts making fun of him more and more, continues to make fun of his show, and Tim grounds him. So it's a real... I mean, for as much as I don't necessarily like what's going on in this episode, I think this is a well-acted scene. Like, they're both mad at each other, and I buy it, at least.
Jordan, I'm glad you brought up net neutrality because that's just on the tip of everyone's tongue right now. And I'd like to say a couple things about that.
Sure, bring it up.
No.
Let's hear it.
No, this, I don't know, I didn't like this scene that much. I think, like, Randy is too mad at his dad. Like, he doesn't have any, like, I feel like he doesn't have any ground to stand on. Like,
he wants privacy.
I know, but...
Don't we all?
Yeah, he's a child, so, like, I don't know. He's so mad at his dad for eavesdropping and stuff, and it's just, like... I don't know. The door was probably open when they had the conversation. Anyways, I just felt like Randy got like too mad, and maybe it wasn't really that warranted. But I guess that could also be the point. Like, I think kind of also the point of the episode.
Tim kind of acts like he kind of did something wrong. Like, so I think that fuels his fire because Randy feels a little bit justified in the fact that his privacy was invaded. So if maybe Tim was more dismissive of that fact, he wouldn't be as mad.
And then, like, at the end, Tim ends with a really bad, like, zinger to his son. Like, Tim should be able to come up with better zingers. He's like, I got a joke for you. Here's the punchline first. You're grounded. What's the joke? What are you going to do the next week? Or something like that. And it just is like, gosh, man.
When you're mad, you just, you can't come up with those kind of clever jokes.
I know, but on a TV show they should because they have writers. People that are trying. If it were real, I would buy that.
Come on, Howard.
Yeah, it's I wrote this here and they do reference it later, but Randy's turn feels like Bad Brad from last season. You know, like when all of a sudden he just like, quickly nowhere. Becomes bad. Yeah, just completely out of nowhere.
And that's because it probably doesn't really exist.
Sure.
So downstairs, Tim is trying to connect with Mark on the intercom, and Brad is trying to read David Copperfield, so he's just getting distracted by all this noise in the background. The intercom is causing a lot of issues. And Brad goes on to ask his mom a little bit about the book because he wants to know a little bit about what's coming up. So he asks about Aunt Betsy in the story, and Jill, she kind of plays it off that she doesn't want to spoil it for Brad, but it seems like she didn't read it either. So
she's busted just like with the math.
Sure.
I guess it was last season. Jill's a real BSer, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So Randy comes down to leave, puts in another intercom dig right before he leaves for school. So he's still mad at his dad. They're not really making up at this point. And Jill is now addressing Tim. She says, "You should know better. He's a teen. Don't you remember when Brad did this last season? Randy's disrespectful, and this is what happens with teenage boys." So Jill then goes on to tell a story of her mom making fun of her in front of her friends in a nickname that she was given. That nickname is Jilly Dilly. Just embarrassing, super embarrassing. And I was wondering,
this episode's really stupid.
I was wondering, do you have any unbecoming nicknames?
No.
No?
No.
None of them?
I don't think so, no.
I've got a couple. People were really picking on me.
Yeah,
as the youngest of four boys, you can imagine that they picked on the youngest a little bit. But one of mine came from my dad for some reason. He also liked to make fun of me. He called me Shrimp. So
oh, what a dig!
It really hurt. It really hurt my feelings. So, Dad, if you're listening, this is Scars.
Shrimp. Wow. I mean, scathing. Again, just...
Scathing. It's about as scathing as Goofball. And then I would say, apparently I cried a lot as a younger boy, and my older brothers nicknamed me CB, and that stands for Crybaby. So they were that was high art right there, too.
CB is good. That's better than, I'd rather be called CB than Crybaby. I do remember you crying a lot, even in high school, so it doesn't surprise me
it started young, and it just kept going, and now
once you start crying, it's hard. It is hard to stop. I know. Sometimes even when we're recording and the edit doesn't go your way, I've seen you just kind of throw tantrums.
It was a lot worse when I was reading Tony Topola and fumbling over my words there, and I've kind of come a long way. So it's not as bad anymore. But man, those first few episodes,
you just bite your lip as it kind of quivers. All right, so we are... Yeah, Jill... What was I going to say? Jilly Pilly.
Dilly.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I wrote Pilly. Either one is really embarrassing.
Yeah.
Tim says that he could turn his eyelids inside out, and I used to turn my eyelids inside out all the time when I was in elementary school, and it really impressed people, so I could just kind of relate on that level.
I always found... I'm glad we weren't friends back then. I really didn't like that.
You found that distasteful?
Yeah.
Probably would have made you cry.
A little bit, yeah. That really brought out the waterworks, so I didn't like it.
A little CB over there. All right, so we're at Tool Time, and I gotta ask you, so... Did you notice this, as this scene opens, the guy kind of sprinting down to his seat? You saw it?
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
what do you think's going on there? Like, do you think that that's unintentional, or is it intentional, or what's the deal?
I think they were just trying to add something a little bit different than everyone just sitting down with their Tool Time hats and clapping and yelling and excited for the show. So that was a real, we can get into the story of this guy and maybe what was he trying to do right before the show started. Maybe he's got some diarrhea issues and he was trying to make it back.
Jordan, it's not that kind of show.
Oh, okay.
We're not that kind of show.
Okay, well.
No, I think it was unintentional. I think
you really thought he was just running down.
I mean, like, it didn't. What else? He didn't look like he was. It looked like just some. It's the real studio audience, so it just looked like some dude that was like caught talking to somebody else around the in the John or something, and he just like last minute made it down to his seat because they've never done anything like that before. Yeah, it just really stood out to me.
Yeah, it definitely stood out. I definitely noticed it, and I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Come on, I still haven't answered my letter from a couple of years ago, so I guess I better not write another letter right away.
Yeah, you can't bombard them.
Nah, they're busy with all the fan mail.
Absolutely.
So, Tool Time. Tim comes out and he, instead of giving Al, some sort of a nickname or making a joke at the expense of his mother-in-law or his flannel, he takes it pretty seriously.
No joking around today.
No, which immediately kind of gives Al pause. And they're setting up like I guess it's some sort of a playground or...
It's a backyard fort. Do you not watch these episodes?
I mean, I just saw a bunch of wood.
You just don't listen to what they're saying.
I saw a bunch of wood. Backyard playground is what I wrote in my notes. So,
all right, they're making a backyard fort, and they're gonna do some post hole digging with a manual post hole digger.
See, I did not catch any of that. So,
oh my goodness. So Tim,
all I
was
really
surprised.
focused on there was no jokes being made.
Yeah, no jokes. Al is surprised that Tim is opting instead for the automatic. Instead of using the automatic post hole digger, he's using the manual one, and he never uses the manual of anything. So he talks about how safety is important, especially for the kids. Al is continually flummoxed here, and so he's trying to lighten the mood a little bit. He makes some jokes that Tim usually makes, and he starts getting suspicious of like when the gag is going to come, which I kind of like. It's a
classic bit of Al self-sabotage.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a little bit. So Al starts doing all of his jokes. He starts making mother-in-law jokes and about how his mom is so fat. And, if Tim would have told him his plan ahead of time, Al wouldn't have freaked out and self-combusted. But
then we wouldn't have had this hilarious scene.
That's right. Best scene in the episode, I think. Not saying much.
I don't think so. Next scene, we're back home, and Tim he's heading to the side yard, and typically, when dusk begins to settle in around the Taylor house and he heads to that side yard, something happens, Jordan, and that something that happens is he talks to Wilson. So this is one of those scenes. Let's play the clip.
Hi-ho, neighbor. Look what I just found here in my yard.
Holy moly, Wilson. It's a rock.
Oh, no, Tim. It's not just a rock. This is laminated dolomitic micrite. This was here even when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. Imagine if this 400-million-year-old rock could talk.
Hey, Brontosaurus, why don't you aim that someplace else?
Always the jokester, Tim.
No, not today. I was real serious on Tool Time today.
Well, I'm surprised by that, knowing your propensity for jocularity.
I did it to make a point with Randy. He said I act like an idiot on the show.
Ooh, ouch, that hurts. Well, this may be small consolation, Tim, but parents are the bone on which children sharpen their teeth.
You're right, that's no help at all.
Now, what I'm saying is, when a boy is young, he worships his father. In order for the boy to become a man, he's got to start seeing his father as a fallible human being. Stop seeing him as a god.
It was easier when he thought of me as a god.
Well, you still got some time left with Mark.
Yeah, I know. I sure would miss this stuff with Randy. Our relationship is real special. He's a lot like me. We make jokes about each other, but we laugh about it.
Well, I'm sure you're going to miss that, Tim, but for the next 4 or 5 years, he's going to seem like a different person.
I wasn't like that with my dad. I worshipped him.
How old were you again when he died?
11.
How old is Randy now?
12, going on. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I didn't have a chance to be rude to my dad because he died before I got the chance. Well, having kids is tough,
Why do you think I have rocks?
So this scene opens with Wilson finding an old rock. Jordan, you into fossils, dinosaurs, anything like that?
I did like dinosaurs when I was younger. I had lots of, maybe not lots, but a couple different like VHS tapes about dinosaurs and stuff. So it was
like Land Before Time, or like, what do you mean VHS tapes about dinosaurs?
Well, Land Before Time, of course, but also just like science videos about fossils and paleontology and all that kind of stuff. Plus, I was a big Friends fan, so Ross Geller. I mean, now we're talking. What about you? You dinosaur man? I've always thought you were kind of like more of a aquatic animal kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why you'd think that based on all the telltale signs of aquatic interest. Yeah, I like dinosaurs. I think like, I don't know. I maybe defy you to find a young boy that doesn't go through a dinosaur phase.
I'll tell you what. My nephew this morning had some dinosaur PJs on, so it's just kind of what happens.
That sounds cool. So he found an old. I mean, it's
an ancient rock. He says
it's an ancient rock. It's been around for nigh upon trillion years, very long time. Basically, Tim he explains the situation, and Wilson drops this line: "Parents are the bone of which children sharpen their teeth."
Arr.
Yes. And he goes on, and as Randy grows up, there's going to be a shift from first when boys are young, they see their father as God. There's no one bigger, larger than life figure. And then, as time goes on, you see them as more human. Basically, they continue to talk, and Tim's dad died when he was 11, so he didn't really have that experience with his dad. Basically, the experience of going through puberty with a father where kind of you rebel against him or rebel against your parents, and maybe you're less appreciative and mouthy, or you just kind of struggle to see eye to eye all the time. But it was kind of strange because Tim has like a realization, like he's never thought of the possibility of like I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Where he just all of a sudden realizes like, oh yeah, my dad died when I was 11. This never happened to me. Like, you would have thought that there wouldn't have needed to have been just kind of that aha moment, like the light bulb going off. Like, I would have thought that would have just been something he kind of recognized as he went along.
Or like something that would have either this conversation would have happened when Brad was going through this last season. Because it's I mean, there are different ways that they're going through it, but it's the same concept. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed a little strange. The scene ends with Wilson saying that he has rocks instead of kids because kids are so hard, but I think that there's more to it than that.
I think rocks are pretty hard in their own right.
Yay.
Hey.
Burton humor.
Yeah, that's right. That's what happens when you come around Flint Town. Moving on to the next scene. At home, Brad is watching TV, what we can only assume is Spartacus. But Jill is home as well, and she wonders why he's not reading instead of watching TV. And he says that he figured out a girl's gonna like him for him if she's truly worth it. And Jill knows right away that he got dumped. Jennifer, this is it. This is the end. The end of Jennifer Zdarsky.
I'm glad they finally just did this because we knew she wasn't coming back. So
they wrapped it up right here. So she's changed, Brad says. She likes reading and classical music. I would say that the writing was on the wall from the beginning when they had like that formal dance and she wanted to dress up as Raggedy Ann and Andy. But he says she's changed.
You're combining two things. The formal dance at the country club was different than her wanting to. That was a Halloween party.
That was a high class.
You think they went to the country club and danced like her?
No, they were separate. They were separate. I didn't say they were the same, but that kind of a costume warrants someone who's just a little bit different. I think a little bit different.
Yeah, she's just one of those 13-year-old girls that just really loves literature.
I mean,
of which there are presumably many. No. Her and Lance are going to have a nice literary grad school life together. One would assume.
It's going to be great. So
Jill feels bad that JS dumped him. She's thinking, all of a sudden thinking, like, does that mean I'm never going to see her again? And she's very sad. She's more sad than Brad is, even.
Yeah, absolutely. And he says, do you want her to come over so she can break up with you too, and so she can have some closure? So, and before we go on, there's not much left in this scene. It's kind of a bridge to another scene. But I thought maybe we could talk about our lasting memories of Jennifer Zdarsky, because this is it. we won't really be talking about her anymore. We won't
Wow.
we'll never see her again.
I wish I'd had the opportunity to prepare. My memories of Jennifer Sudarsky. Okay, so I mean, my fondest memory is definitely when she arrived at the aforementioned
Absolutely.
Halloween party with Danny, and they were both dressed as bikers, and that's iconic. For all the wrong reasons, but just the melodrama of that is one of my fondest moments. I also liked it when. Now I'm just gonna have to try to think of moments.
Here,
that she was in.
I'll do my.
Okay.
One moment where I really thought she was a little bit older than her age and really did just a wonderful thing for Brad is she forgave him for killing her fish. You know, that was really beyond her years and mature. And I'm gonna miss that kind of behavior that really brought up the Taylor family with her.
Yeah, that was nice. Anything else?
I'm just gonna miss her rapier wit and her just genius teaching Brad math and helping him to pass certain things.
That was very good. I liked it when she called him Bradley all those times. I also liked it when she kind of inexplicably spoke with a southern accent.
Sure.
The majority of the time. I thought that was cool. Just good character choices. Jennifer, you will be missed. Could we play in some Sarah McLachlan, or is that a licensure issue?
We'll figure it out later.
Right,
but right now, it's just a sad moment. I didn't want it to go unnoticed. So
I appreciate you bringing that up.
I'm glad we spent some time talking about it. So as I said, this is kind of a transition scene. So Tim comes in looking for Randy. He is not there. But upstairs, Randy is organizing his room, and Tim comes in.
Well, this is where the bedroom boys come into play.
Naturally. So Tim comes in. Randy is, Tim's going to have this conversation, the realization that he had with Wilson. He's going to try to reconcile a little bit with his son. And so he's talking about how, he's teaching Randy that he's becoming an adolescent just in case Randy's not aware of what's happening.
It's a oddly veiled talk about puberty,
a little bit. So Tim's going to try to be more understanding. He's going to be waiting on the other side when Randy comes out of puberty. And, but he says, I got to draw a line with you. You went too far. You called me a goofball. You called my show full-time, and only Danny gets away with that. So
it'd be funny if he was like, if you're going to burn me, you got to come up with jokes somebody else hasn't already used. I mean, we all remember when Danny used that last season.
So he says the line that he draws is no jokes about his job or him getting hurt. And Randy says, what else is there to joke about? And that leaves Mom. So they have a good laugh over that. So all is well.
I did like this. The only part of this episode that I felt any kind of real connection towards, or that I enjoyed, was the final moment when Randy says in earnest, "I'm sorry you never got a chance to sort of mess with your dad."
It is, it's a nice apology.
It is a nice apology.
It's very much in Randy, well, we'll get to it at the end, I guess. That is one thing I like about this episode, is that all the things that Randy is doing is at least in his character, he, in his way, if he were to rebel, it would be like making jokes and going too far. Not that he actually does in this episode, but that's the way he would do it. And so I do like that. And it is a nice apology here. So
final scene, back in the bedroom again. All the bedroom boys are there. Tim enters, and doesn't he basically just say you guys want to know your mom's nickname when she was younger?
Yeah, that's it.
And really not a lot of. It doesn't escalate. It just kind of starts at the very top. And Al is there, and he has apparently fixed the intercom, so Jill is able to hear in, and she says, "Hey, don't tell them that just incredibly embarrassing nickname." But then Tim writes it on a piece of paper, and that's how the episode ends.
That's it.
So it's just a really good stinger scene. Glad they were to include that.
And after that last scene, there are some outtakes of Tim stumbling over his words and the door not opening on tool time. And that is the end of episode 52. This joke's for you.
Well, credits fade to black. This joke's for you. Just another day at the tool time corral.
That's right. Another day. Coming out to the saloon, get yourself a brewski, relax, and watch some Home Improvement. So
that's what I like to do. Let's
talk some highs and lows. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll get it out of the way. I was just sort of bored by this episode. I don't know why. I think I think it's unique enough, but ultimately I found it just fairly boring, especially this morning. It was just a long 23 minutes. I liked it more the first time around for whatever reason, but I'll start with highs. I did like the moment I just mentioned where Randy and his dad kind of have that heartfelt moment where he apologizes. And I think the stuff with like the stuff with Tim's dad and kind of like him grappling with his father dying when he was young and just just the experience of now him being the same age as his father when he died and then raising boys that were about the same age as he was when his father passed. It's like an interesting thing that they continue to sort of go back to. I wish they would go back to it. How do I say it? I wish they would focus more on it instead of just kind of tossing it into episodes as an A plot or a B plot or a C plot. Like, I wish we could get a little bit more on that instead of just using it sporadically. But I do think that's sort of an interesting thing that they kind of thematically keep doing. Brad's turn with the David Copperfield book was, dare I say it, reasonably funny. And the intercom stuff was... the stuff I did get a laugh when the air traffic controller came into play, but no, I didn't love this episode. Like I said, I think that overall it was just kind of monotonous. We go to the boys' bedroom like 6 times for very similar. The scenes are quite similar. I didn't think Tim's turn as being hurt when his son called him a goofball really was especially logical. He would have had to have said something a lot more like biting than what he did, but really he's just kind of saying like my dad's a dork, which I think young boys say about their fathers with some regularity. So I don't know, that didn't add up to me.
He should be happy he didn't call him the F word or something. Yeah,
that's more. That would be more understandable if like Randy was like, yeah, my dad's an effing a-hole or something. Obviously that would never happen, but like that would be more logical for me. The Wild West scene at the beginning I thought was kind of painful to watch. Just not my favorite, just kind of dull, forgettable for me. What about you?
Yeah, I would say it's only okay for me. Like, I agree with a lot of what you say. It does seem forced in the way that they, make this episode something out of nothing that is said. I do like the scene where Al gets reverse psychologied-ish, where he kind of like, Tim is being all serious and Al freaks out and calls his mother a big fat pig or whatever he does. It does mark a monumental moment in the series for me, and that is the formal end of Jennifer Zdarsky, and I'm glad we got some closure to that situation. But other than that, not a real memorable episode. I did like Brad's story more. I did like his sweatshirt a lot more than what happens in this episode.
I think when the highlight of the episode is a crew neck sweatshirt, you're in trouble.
You're in a lot of trouble. So I will say at least like the act of rebellion, like I said, is something that makes sense for Randy. I just wish that it was actually something that I could believe would be enraging to a father. So yeah, only so for me. But we've had worse. So
after the last episode we had was very strong. So I think after you have a real good one, it's reasonable to sort of return with I don't know, maybe they have less to say after one, an episode that just soars to heights, unforeseen, just in terms of levels of humor and Karn.
Humor and Karn, nothing better than that. So,
and that's Korn backwards.
Oh, yeah, another 90s reference right there.
I remember, quick aside, not important, I remember someone spray painting Karn on the side of Davidson Middle School.
Yeah, why not?
What bad boys they were.
What bad boys they were.
What bad boys they were. All right, Jordan, so what do you want to get into next?
Let's talk a little bit about social media where people can interact with us. If you want to reach out to us, please do so on Facebook at facebook.com/Home Impodcast. We're on Twitter at Home Impodcast. Our website is thehomeimpodcast.com. If you would like to support the show, you can do so in a couple different ways. You can leave us a review on iTunes. We love getting those. I think we have 15 reviews now, so if we can get more the better. That is how people find us. If you want to support this show monetarily, you can do so for as little as $1. You can go to our website. There is a support tab there, or you can go to patreon.com/homeimpodcast. And when you do that, you get special episodes. You get the Jungle to Jungle episode that we recorded, 90 minutes of just raw, unfettered content. And we're going to continue releasing other things like that going forward. So become special sponsors of the show, and you won't regret it.
You sure won't. And Jordan, we should say that this is Sean's social media roundup.
Absolutely.
As a friend of the show, Sean did donate a sizable donation a few weeks back, so henceforth this is known as Sean social media. He donated. The price was so high that I can barely speak about it. No. In terms of social media this week, on Twitter, the poll, which was posted July 5th, so it's been a while now, but it's what's your favorite sport? 20 votes, so a good sample size. And let's start at the bottom and work our way to the top. I think that's the best way to go about doing this, don't you think, Jordan?
Yeah, absolutely.
10% said baseball, 25% said basketball, 30% said sports aren't my thing, 35% said football. So
that's about right.
I voted for baseball, so actually only one person out of 20 voted for baseball.
Oh, no, that would be 5%.
Oh, no. Wait,
math.
2 out of 20 is not 10%?
I thought you said you were the only one.
No. Jordan, don't try to play your number games with me. In terms of the Home Impodcast review, we did get a new review, as Jordan mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and read it. Title is Excellent, and this is by WilsonFan32.
Nice.
So, wow. As a lifelong home improvement fan, I can honestly say this is the most thorough podcast on home improvement I've listened to. Presumably they've listened to a lot of them. Witty, smart, and funny. This is a must-download for hardcore and casual fans alike. Really enjoyed their recent interview with Richard Karn. Definitely check it out.
Wow, thanks, Wilson32.
That's actually WilsonFan32. I don't want it's different usernames. So
WilsonFan32, that was very kind. I appreciate it.
So if you want people to, or rather, if you enjoyed the show, or you enjoy us, or you're personal friends of ours, or family, go ahead and rate, review us on iTunes. It helps people find us, and support the show. Jordan, we got a question this week, so we should go ahead and open the mailbag.
Rip.
You've got mail.
So the question this week comes from at Horror Movie Barbecue, and the question is, well, originally they tweeted, when it comes to Tool Time girls, they prefer Heidi over Lisa, and they ask, what's the feeling on this debate, Home Impodcast? So Jordan, which do you prefer, Heidi or Lisa?
I have to agree, and this is probably just because Pam Anderson she got less lines than I remember her even getting. Like, as we watched back the first couple seasons, she doesn't really say much at all, and not much revolves around her. She's just not on the show long enough, and even in Debbie Dunning's short time on these, 4 or 5 episodes that we've covered so far, they've included her doing the opening almost every episode, and we know that later down the line she gets a lot more going on. So I do enjoy her turn as the Tool girl more.
Which one do you find more physically attractive, Jordan?
Let's move on. Your turn to answer the question.
If you're talking about in terms of just Lisa was on the show for 2 seasons and really only spoke maybe 3 or 4 times. She wasn't given a lot to do. I think it's really not even a debate at all. The only reason people would maybe bring it up is because Pam Anderson became so popular in the wake of the show and went on to the fame of Baywatch and stuff. But it's in terms of which one is a better character, it's Debbie Dunning, just because she's on the show for several more years. She has entire plots built around her, especially near the end of the show. She becomes kind of an integral character. So give me Heidi over Lisa 10 times out of 10.
Absolutely. Wow.
I think we did a good job answering that question.
Sure did. Thanks for asking. We would like more questions, so feel free to reach out to us on all those avenues that we talked about before. And I suppose that means we're going to go to the question of the week.
I think it's about time for the question of the week. Jordan, who's up?
I think it's me.
All right.
All right. This episode is the second instance, the second Taylor boy who is rebellious, who is rambunctious, who is just going out and doing terrible things, awful things, really, in their puberty. And I was wondering, did you have any real rebellious moments as a teen? I don't know if this would be in general towards your parents or maybe outside of that fact, but you got any you want to share with us? Share with the audience?
I think that this question would be better suited for 2 guys that weren't us.
Yeah,
I don't think either one of us
we're real terrible.
Is going to have a real exciting answer. Did I go through a rebellious phase? Not in the way that most people do. No, I don't think so. Trying to think of I mean, my rebellion would have been a lot like Randy's, I think, in this episode. Like, I was maybe like a smart aleck, making jokes, thinking I was funny when I actually wasn't, or just like being kind of rude. But in terms of like, I never had anything like Brad.
You didn't punch your dad in the face or anything?
I never have punched my dad in the face.
I'm gonna have to ask him to confirm.
Yeah, you can check in with him. No, I mean, yeah, it's. I wish I had a better answer, but it would have just been like small time, like mouthing off and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't throw bricks at windows or like sneak out and smoke cigarettes or anything.
No, you just cracked
anything I did like
eggs.
that, I would have done like. Yeah, I think like my rebellion maybe came when I was a little bit older, just due to a slow maturation process. But I don't want to get into my college rebellion necessarily. But when I was a young boy, no, just kind of a jerk sometimes in the way I think a lot of kids are jerks. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I do remember being, I don't know, a little bit like kind of like a spoiled brat a couple times, like not getting what I wanted and then whining about it. Crybaby.
CB,
and
yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Like, I remember a time I was particularly mad, and I like was in my bed, and I like shoved my foot through the bottom of the bed. Like, I don't know what I was even mad about, but it was so stupid, and I like broke part of the bed, like the wooden part of the bed, and stuff like that, and complaining about like not being able to go over to a friend's for a certain time or staying out late or whatever. Just stupid stuff like that.
Obviously, just a couple of really bad seeds.
Yeah,
here.
bad seeds around Davison, Michigan, causing a lot of trouble.
Painting the town red.
Yeah, I heard some stories from my dad yesterday and some of his rebellion, and it was perhaps more interesting than what I just shared. But
Your dad's rebellion was he listened to jazz too loud.
He went to dances when he wasn't supposed to.
Oh no! Wow. He loves music. Your dad lives for music.
It was kind of like growing up in the movie of Footloose. So he was doing some naughty things, but
yeah.
But we're not particularly. We don't have great stories there. But
no.
Glad we were able to share that with the audience.
Yeah, I think people probably found it really interesting.
So that wraps it up for episode 52. Next episode, we're going to be covering a so-so evening. So get ready for that.
Let's hope it's not a so-so episode like this one was.
Absolutely. So, take us out, Adam.
Well, Jordan, it's been a pleasure today. It's good to be back, conversing with you and talking with you and friends again, because, really our friendship is limited to this podcast. So if we're not doing the podcast, and, we're just not in close touch. So I'm happy to be back here. Thank you for joining me, and everyone, thank you for listening. And I guess I should say take care.
Take care, everybody.